And we're back in the room again. It is Sheena Cantor, and if you haven't realized, it's Sheena Cantor and Bobbi Jo here going on here. And where have you been? We've just done about 5 or 6 of these, and are you just coming in now? You'll just have to catch up, won't they, Bobbi Jo?
Yes, they will. So we were talking about persistence and perception today, and we're actually gonna tape again today and post it tomorrow because Sheena is busy. So we're never coming live, but we are coming to you every day. So we were talking about perception, and now we're going to talk about persistence.
Well, the way I see it, if you change, you can change your perception about any tiny little thing. You know, somebody's having an argument, help me understand, all of that. But don't change the perception about who you are. Like one of the greatest things I learned was know thyself. And Bob said, when you know yourself, you know everybody. When you've figured out who you are, and you are, well, you tell me in the comments, anybody in the comments, just tell me who you are. When you realize who you are, stick to it. Not, I remember somebody saying, like just 51% over. But then that means at 49%, you're sort of not in the game and you cannot serve two masters. And that's the biggest thing, not even 99%. It has to be 100 because the more you know, the more you've grown in the understanding of who you are. If you do not choose 100%, see that 1%, it is so painful. It is like, have you ever had white jeans on and they're dirty and a dog's jumped on them and you go, sure, it doesn't matter, I'll get them washed, it's no problem. And then you've cleaned your jeans, you understand who you are, and you're keeping an eye and you're keeping aware, and then you see that dog, you will not let that dog jump on your jeans.
Mhm.
That's how you've got to be with your thoughts. Be persistent in your perception of who you are, and eventually it will just become, goes from conscious competence to
Mhm.
unconscious competence, which is
Oh.
when you just know. And it's never an ending. We haven't a clue what's going on, really. We just are where we are, right here, right now. Like, don't believe a word I say, but if I speak my truth where I am right here, right now, then maybe you'll hear your own truth.
You know, that's so interesting because I bet you if you write in the comments, people watching this, they're like, I know who I am. I really know who I am. And especially as we get older, maybe 60 and 70-year-olds. But I got to tell you, working with older people as my clients, there's one woman in particular I can think of that she wanted to hire me for her kids. And I was like, I don't want to work with your kids if they're in their 40s. If they don't even, they don't want this help. You want it for them, but you can't only lead a horse to water, right? So she ended up being in the military and retired and was a leader. And what she learned and discovered in that year that she worked with me, she said just blew her away. She thought she knew who she was being in the military, serving in the United States Air Force, leading leadership programs. And she didn't know. So I think that your first thing when you go in there, I know who I am, that's your ego. Because all I'm going to say is I've worked on myself every day for over 4 years now, and it really has been about unbecoming who I thought I was. And it is that persistence of always never beating myself up, loving who I am, but realizing when things came up and not resisting it. Maybe anger came up, but it was learned. And so, there's so much. I get tongue tied, twisted about it. There's so much about it. We think we know who we are, and we're really not. So who I am today and who you're going to know me in 5 years from now, Sheen, is going to be completely different because I feel like we're always evolving. We're always. I just love it. There's that one meme out there is like, so maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's unbecoming everything you thought you were, so you could really be truly who you are. Something like that. But and that's really how I feel. But it's the persistence of just every day I'm in the game. Every day I have the awareness. I kind of watch myself. I love who I am. And why don't you tell that good story? There's a couple of good persistent stories, about the gold and the fault line. There's a couple of good stories about persistence. And I want to ask you that if you're going to try something for a year or 2 years and you're going to give up, what is it that's true in your heart? So you stumble, you fall, you get up, you try again. It's like Sir Edward Hillary hiking up, Mount Everest. He didn't know why. He kept doing it. And there's no failing. You got to fail your way to success. What's wrong with failures? That's where we read about that in the decision article, which we should drop the decision article in little notes. I'll let you
We'll do
talk
that.
more about that. But we talk about that being a decision, knowing what you know in your heart, regardless of what everyone else is there. And isn't that all the great people who discovered anything and did anything? They just knew in their heart. And I think Steve Jobs has a quote like that. You follow your heart and you follow your intuition, and they somehow know the way.
Hmm. I
So
love that.
what's
I mean, look at Bob. He made a goal in 1973 that he would have a company that operated in every single country in the world. Was he persistent or what? Because it took him until, what was it, June 2021. And he died 6 months later. How funny. Like that was his ultimate, ultimate, ultimate goal. Now that was persistence, Bobby Joe, isn't it?
Yes, and that's what I've always, people, this might be a little bit too out of curveball for you, but people, you don't get cancer. We all have cancer in us. It's when you're not paying attention. So whatever way that Bob went, it's like it was his time. So whatever the ticket is, a drunk driver, oh, a heart attack, oh, it was cancer, it was Parkinson's, whatever the story is of how he exited, it's just a story. Like his soul came to fulfill something, and he always said for 60 years it was to be around the world, and he accomplished it. And so that soul accomplished, check mark, people. So I guess maybe if you want to keep going, then you keep making more
Find
and more
another goal.
more and more goals. So that's
I think he was
persistent.
exhausted by that stage. He's just like, my goodness, I've done enough. Like flipping 87, I'm out of here. And I mean, the other thing is it's about that mindset. It may not be, it could even just be a goal of peace of mind. So it
Mhm.
brings to mind Viktor Frankl. So the book about, where he was a man's search for meaning, and he was 10 years in a concentration camp, that everybody around him was dying, but he kept his vision. Persistently, he kept his vision as to him doing the things he was going to do whenever he got out. And he got out. Everything was taken away from us, from him, every single thing. I mean, would you be that persistent if you saw your goal and you held on to it and you didn't move and you refused to think other thoughts that were in contrary to it? Can you do that? How long would you last? Because if you're looking for something, like think about when you're 90 and you're looking back on your life. So some people say, well, I don't know what I want. And I go, well, you're 90. You're looking back on your life. You're about to exit. What do you want to have seen? What is that? What will make you get out of bed every day? What will make you not have thoughts contrary to what you want? What is that vision? Because as far as we know, because we don't know anything, this is it. Like, this is it. This could be your only time here. Like, who knows? Who is there to know? All I know is that I am. Bobby Joe knows that she is I am, but that's her I am, not my I am. I only know my I am. So that's all we know. We don't know anything else. So this could be it. This is an eternal now. What are you doing with it? I just think persistence in, for me, Bobby Joe, it was discipline. I thought discipline was something harsh, but discipline was my freedom.
Mm.
Discipline of my thoughts. Discipline to not think a thought that was contrary to the goal that I had set at all. Not to hang on to the goal, but to not think a goal that was contrary to the goal that I'd set. That was really hard because you want to whinge and moan and complain. This isn't working, nah, 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 nah. And then you've got to go, well, if you keep saying that, guess what the universe brings you? So what are you, everybody's persistent, but what are you persistent in? Whinging and complaining? Or just keep it quiet. You don't need to tell anybody. When people ask you things, just smile. Just never go against your goal.
Yeah, that creating inside, that creating that feeling of it's already here. It was an interesting journey here with Sheena the first couple years because I never knew she never lied, but it was like she wouldn't complain. She wouldn't say, "Oh, this is going on and this is going on and this is going on," because she didn't want to keep creating that. I always like to think of it, it's weird, but as two vases, and you have marbles. There's is she going to keep filling up like, oh, ooh, the lack and tell me about her lack constantly every day that I talk to her? Or we just kept talking about mindset stuff. We kept talking about growth in different ways. But I really didn't know much about personally what was going on because if it wasn't an exact alignment, she didn't want to keep feeding into it and creating it and talking about it. So it was really interesting. And so it's kind of now with certain friends or my husband, you kind of wink, wink. How is it? Oh, it's great. Yeah. Flying out to Maui today. Bye.
And we do it
Just
all with a big smile on our face and just going like, I'll tell you soon, everything's going exactly the way it's planned, or unbelievable.
yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, it could be unbelievably crap, guys, but just don't speak against where you're going.
I ask my husband every day, and he gets home, "How was work today?" He's like, "Lovely, wonderful." And he has well, it's not an easy job. He builds jet engines, but it's like, he's just like lovely. It's like, why complain? What's it gonna do? You're just gonna feed more into that energetically. You're gonna feed into that. So which way's your needle going towards the new you, or are you just creating the old you from yesterday that you want to get away from?
Mm. And I find that
Persistent.
with coaching is one of the things that I realized is that I was persistent in trying to fix people,
Uh,
and realizing that actually, I was just no better. I was literally, it's like there's a stick and there's a positivity side and then there's a negative side. So rather than thinking that it's all a whole, all I had done was move to the positivity side of the same negative stick. I hadn't actually grown as a person. I got all these qualifications. I knew loads, but I actually hadn't moved vibration at all. I just shifted over to the positive side of the stick. And then I would think that these negative people needed to be fixed. And actually, by me thinking that meant that I was really there myself.
yep.
I hadn't really quite clocked that until I did thinking into results. And then I realized, oh my God, I haven't shifted a damn thing. I just know a lot.
I think that's funny. And the persistence. What's the story about the guy Roger in 1950 something? He broke the 4 minute mile. That just shows that the persistence of knowing. And then once you can, that perception that it can't be done, and then you do. And then everyone else broke the 4 minute mile after that. It was like easy breezy. And that's just an example of what we can do with our minds. Nobody could break it. And the minute it was done, uh-oh. You're one, he was persistent enough to keep trying. And two, that perception. And once it was broke, it was amazing. All these other people. So what are you holding yourself back? So that's the point of all this and talking is like you can listen to us and listen to us, and you can always, I love it. You can lead a horse to water. I think I said that yesterday, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So you just have to really think, what is it that you truly want? It's the awareness of where your thoughts are when you're washing the dishes, when you're driving, when you're out mowing the lawn, when you're picking up the kids, when you're making their sandwiches. What are you creating with these thoughts?
It's that just as you said, that persistence, no matter what you're doing. Like my example would be sitting in a restaurant, and some people complain about their job, but if you think about that, if you spend your day doing that, then you're lacking in energy when you go home. So I see a girl who just half cleans the table and just like doesn't put a good effort in it. And you can see that she doesn't want to be there. She's sort of like walking around quite heavy. But then you see somebody else doing exactly the same job and taking pride in their work because they take pride in themselves and they're full of energy and they're doing everything to the best of where they are, no matter what they're doing. And they clean the table properly and they look back and they actually view their work as if, yeah, I've done a good job there. So it's always like, what are you persistent in? Because then when you go home and it was a horrible day at work, or you go home and you did a good job, that knocks on into your family, doesn't it? And then your family picks up on that, and you can moan and complain about your job, but there's somebody else here loving that job, and you cannot rise what you're complaining about. Complaining means you hold yourself there. And when you stop complaining, then you can rise out of it. But if you keep complaining, you're actually holding yourself there. It's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the kids are learning. That's what it is. And that's one thing I like about coaching the most is that I know it's trickling when I'm helping the adults. It's helping the children and the grandchildren because they're living by example. And that's where we learn. That's the family paradigm. You do what you do. And isn't that a great story about perception and why you do? And I've heard other people tell this story, but I love it because it's Bob Proctor's story all the way. His wife was dressing up a ham one day for Easter, and she cut off one end, turned it around, fixed it, cut off the other end, and put it in the pan and whatever, and put it in the oven. After seeing her do this for years, he always asked her, why? Why do you cut off one side and the other? And she goes, it's how my mom made these hams. So he called the mother-in-law and said, Gladys, whatever her name is, where that came from, I don't know, but the older people, I was like, why do you do this? And she said, my mother did it. So luckily enough, he was younger in his life this time that he got to call the grandmother of his wife and said, why do you do this? It's gone through cultures. Why do you cut off the side of the ham? And she said, it never fit in my pan. So, families, this is what you're doing. So when you're going home complaining, you're setting examples for your kids and that the life they're going to have. Money doesn't grow on trees. You got to work hard. And maybe that is your reality, but it doesn't have to be. You can change it. Start to see perception, start to see it. Because if it's working for somebody else, right? The Joneses, what we always say here in the United States. Oh, look at the Joneses. They got this, they got that. You know what I always say? You know why the grass is greener in your neighbor's yard? Because they've fertilized their mind. They have learned to just accept the money coming in. I grew up in a place called Cape Cod and it's really wealthy. And I always thought money bred money. Like, oh, all these kids I grew up with, like they ended up being rich kids too. And it's like, why? You know what it was? They didn't have a money paradigm. Money was always around. Money was just there. So they didn't block it, the energy of it coming in. That's what it was. And I didn't realize this until these 4 years that that's what it was. They have a money paradigm that's not there. They're married to money. Money just comes to them because money's there. So what do you allow? Where's your flow?
We're
Perception,
persistent about
perception,
something, aren't we?
perception.
We
What?
don't have to learn persistence. We're actually persistent about, we are so persistent, but it's just what are you persistent in? So don't be thinking, oh my God, this is so much hard work. It's not hard work. You're persistent in something. Switch it. Switch the persistence to whatever you want. You know, I'll end on this one. I'm just looking for the book. It's not here, but Think and Grow Rich. I remember when I first opened the contents page and I looked at all these things and I was like, oh my goodness, I have to learn to do all of these. And after studying Thinking into Results, I went back and I looked at the chapter headings again and I went, I am all of these. I always was. I was just pointing them in the wrong, in a direction that wasn't serving my highest good. So you don't have to be better. You are it already. Just point the energy somewhere that you want to go.
What does he want to go? And that is the funniest thing. When all the clients that I work with, it's the best thing. They don't know what they want, but they know what they don't want. So I start being, okay, do you want to be a lifeguard? No. Do you want to drive a VW? No. So, that's the way sometimes you can figure out what it is that you do want. And we'll go deeper into this. Just keep paying attention. Conversations with Bobbi Jo and Sheena. Like us. If you're enjoying this conversation, everyone can grow and learn from this. Tell your sister, tell your best friend, watch us. We're going to go somewhere. We're committed to just coming to you and talking and just, spreading the love around the world because we're here to help you rise. We're here to help you see the best that's in you. We love you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you want to book a call with either one of us, then just do that down there. Where do you want to go? We want to hear your goals. Put them in there, actually. Put them in the chat. Tell us where you're going, what you actually say, and what do you want to be persistent in. Okie dokie. That's as much from me. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
See you soon. See you next time.